to the Stevie Mac podcast. So sit back,
What is up,
relax,
everyone? Hope
chillax,
all
and
is
enjoy
well.
the show.
This is your boy Stevie Mac, and today I have the fitness influencer, Miss Katie King, with us today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, doing wonderful, doing wonderful. You know what I mean? So we tried this a couple times, but we had technical difficulties. So now hopefully everything, all the bugs are out. So hopefully we can get this in. Because I really enjoyed talking to you. Like when our first take was a wonderful conversation. So we're gonna kick back off from where we started. But before for the listeners out there who don't know you, want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, so I am Katie King. I just turned 44. I have three kids ranging from 6 to 16. I am from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I have had a long battle with weight, but have finally figured out the things that really work for me and my body and able to lose 160 pounds and keep it off, and then getting in the gym and strength training, and now just passionate about helping others to be able to succeed in their journey as well.
That is awesome. So so you said Chattanooga, Tennessee, right? And
Yes.
you just had a birthday this past Sunday, correct?
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go ahead and go into this to this interview. So you've been on quite a journey with weight loss and weight and fitness. So what got you into strength training in the first place?
So when I lost my weight, I had intended on having plastic surgery, because, as many people know, when you lose a large amount of weight, it's often you have a lot of skin issues. But unfortunately, due to medical reasons, after hemorrhaging two surgeries in a row, the doctors are like, that's a no go. And so I did sulk for a little while. And then I had a couple people tell me, well, you won't be able to do it unless you have the surgery. I'm sorry. And so I typically take things like that as a challenge. And I thought, you know what? At that point, I'd lost 140 pounds. And I thought, didn't lose all this weight to still be unhappy with myself. And so I just started showing up each day and starting to work out. And the more that I showed up for myself and then started seeing results, then I got into the gym and started lifting weights and found that even though I've been in the gym off and on my whole life, I'd always done cardio. Um, I love strength training. And so I've really enjoyed learning how to build the strength outwardly, but it also has truly built strength inwardly as well.
Yeah, that is awesome. With cardio, I interviewed a lady named Miss Heather from New York the other day, and she said I think I guess it's cardio. She jumps on a uh,
Yeah.
trampoline stuff, and she said it's real intense. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I haven't, but I have a friend who does, and she swears by it.
Yeah.
So,
Man,
yeah.
that's crazy. I said, I don't think my knees will make it. So, starting with the 30-minute workouts at home, how did you stay consistent and motivated in the first few weeks?
So, to kind of give you a backup
Uh-huh.
leading up to that, so I've tried to lose weight off and on most of my life.
Uh-huh.
I was not truly aware that I had a food addiction issue. I am adopted, and um, I was adopted at birth. But for anybody that knows anything about the primal wound, it's basically where, as an infant, and you were left alone. And then for me, I was left alone in the hospital. And then I went to another family, bonded with them, was left alone again. Then I went to another family, and by that point, I had already a fear of rejection. In fact, my adoptive mom, my mom, told me that when I first came to her, I would actually sit there as a baby at 6 weeks old and push her away from me, because I guess I was already fearful of rejection. So wound up going through life, eating my feelings,
Uh-huh.
and whether it was happy, sad, upset, that became my codependency. I also was very much a people pleaser and always wanted to seek validation through everyone else's acceptance of me. And so I lived most of my life really pleasing other people. Now, obviously, there's stuff I did that I wanted to do, but there's a lot of things that I've learned now that I just did what other people wanted. And so when I started kind of started this all out, um, I wound up having gastric bypass surgery. It'll be 10 years in December because I thought, I can't do this. I can't look like this anymore. And I went into it, unfortunately, with the wrong mentality that, if I look better, I'll feel better.
Yeah.
And so I did lose 110 pounds. But unfortunately, with gastric bypass, often if you don't do the mental work, which I did not, and you only focus on other things, you continue to need something to fill that void. And so it was a very short lived, but a very influential part of my life. I became codependent on alcohol. And so after about a year and a half or so of that, I just hit rock bottom. And I wound up going to Celebrate Recovery. And I've now 3.5 years sober from alcohol and really what truly, got me there, which was the food addiction.
Yeah.
And so I did a 12-step study and I put 110% into that. I really worked really hard for almost 2 years, just every single day. And it's funny because, like, the first 6 weeks of the actual 12-step study, I lost 30 pounds because at that point, just go back, I'd actually gained back almost all my weight from surgery. So I started back where I was, probably stretched my stomach out, um, just felt like defeat. And so I started doing this program, and just as things started to make sense and I understood areas that I needed to work on, I just started to heal. And so I've learned a lot about myself, which then in turn, when all of this came about not being able to have the surgery, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, it, something's got to change. And I'm typically the person that falls off the bandwagon. If I eat one meal that's bad, well, I'll just go the whole day then and I'll eat bad, which turns into a week, which turns into a month, which you know how it goes. Same thing with
Yeah.
fitness. And so I kind of developed that all or nothing mentality. And I had that. That's the way I lived. And so I thought, okay, if this is going to work and I'm going to actually do this and be successful, that's got to go. And so I said, I am going to, just like with Celebrate Recovery, with anything else, I'm just going to show up for myself today. I'm only going to worry about today. And at that point, I said, if I could get 2 to 3 days a week, 30 minutes, and just get something in, then that's good. And I learned that, we really have to rewire our brains. Our brains are the most important muscle that we really need to train because we spent, like for me, when I started the strength training and the working out seriously, at that point, it's 43 years old, 43 years of habits of doing this wrong. And so my brain says, you can't do this. You will fail. No matter what you do, you're going to fail. And so I started out, let's just start small. Let's do one step at a time. Let's do one day at a time. And let's retrain the brain to think, okay, I succeeded with this thing. Let's go on to the next one. And so, just slowly just started building that groundwork. And then it's funny because when I changed that all or nothing, I stopped thinking about the scale and what would happen. And I just focused on that. And then one day I woke up and I noticed I have some muscle. Where did that come from? But it's because I wasn't focused on it anymore. Like I wasn't focused on the end result.
Yeah.
I'd always made these, I need to do this and that. And so then when I started seeing those, then I was like, up our game a little bit. Like this is cool. So then it just gradually started to build from there. But it's something that I've learned with anything in life in general, but especially in my fitness and nutrition journey, is that you can have a large goal. That's fantastic, but you can't get somewhere without stepping up each step on the ladder to reach the top. And so I found that I just needed to set small goals that I would able to do in order to obtain that large one. And that was weird for me.
Yeah.
And there are days where I will go 2 or 3 days and not work out, but for the first time ever, I don't feel it's failure. And instead, it's a lesson that I've learned. And what do I take from that lesson? What do I need to change from that? And what do I need to incorporate in order to keep going and be successful? So,
And like when you talked at the beginning of it about stress eating, I tell you that's one thing that I did. I stress ate, I stress drank. You know what I mean? Like I made an excuse to eat when I was so stressed. Like like the common person, unless their life is perfect or whatever, is going to have something to stress about. And
oh,
for me,
yeah, absolutely.
like stress was one of my main things, and like so I always found an excuse to eat either little Debbie snacks or anything just to eat, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm just sitting at the house and I'm already stressed, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go in the pantry. Let me find something to eat right quick, and then I'll get bored. I forget about it, and then I'd always find a reason to drink. If a friend came over, we'll drink beer or whatever. Or if I go to a buddy's
Yeah.
house, take a 12 pack. Hey, let's drink some beer. They wouldn't even plan on drinking. They just wanted to socialize or whatever. But we ended up drinking. So one thing that I found out for myself, almost weighing from going from 285, 290 to going down to 240. I actually just weighed myself at the doctor and I gained 4 pounds, so I'm at 244. And it's like, man, like when I start working out, I get in the groove. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like we talked last time, it's 21 days to break a habit, 3 days to screw it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I start working out, and then I go back and I drink some beer. It's like, why did I just drink this beer? At the time, you feel good about it, but then you wake up the next morning like, I did all this work this whole week, you know,
Yeah.
not this whole week, this whole month or the whole 6 months, and now I feel like crap because I drank beer. Now I got to start back over again, because
Right.
with alcohol, with beer in general puts weight on you. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, now you wake up, you got a little beer gut, just like, where'd my stomach go? You know what I mean? Like it you can gain weight so fast, but it's so hard to lose. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing a lot like me, I didn't understand at first. You know what I mean? And then
Oh yeah.
now, like I've been working out for a year and a half now, a year consistent, and it's like, well, I'm already going where I'm on my goal because my goal is 200. So I'm already on my path. So if I continue doing that, if I can just leave the alcohol alone, and not every blue moon, maybe one or two or whatever,
Yeah.
but but if I could just leave it alone and cut it out in general, man, I think sky's the limit. So, uh, but man, so you went from what 300 to one to what
To
300
139.
to 139. That is
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing in itself, man. So congratulations on that. Um, so so how like when going to the gym, how did you learn proper use of the gym equipment, and how did it change your progression and confidence?
So that is a funny story in itself because I deal with anxiety and depression, and probably one of the things that I have to work on the most, and I still have to, it's one thing that I'm still continually to work on is my self-esteem and being so insecure and also body dysmorphia. Because when you lose that amount of weight, a lot of times you revert to thinking, I still look like this, and I don't see that I look like that. And so when I joined the gym, I kind of worked with a coach for just a little while and just to get me kind of guided where I needed to go. And they're the ones that encouraged me to get into the gym. And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
They're like, if you really want this and you want to make changes like plastic surgery was going to do, you got to do it. And so I did. In fact, I joined the gym on a month to month basis because my brain says, you do this all the time. You always join, you always quit. Like, don't sign up for a whole year and lose out on all your money like normal.
Yeah.
So, and I even have reels on where my first few times that I went to the gym or even the first few weeks. And I literally, I was like, I'm going to vomit. I was so anxious and nervous to walk in there. I was like, I'm going to vomit. But when I signed up, the lady said, she looked at me and she signed me up. And then she said, I guess you really don't need a tour, do you? And I looked at her. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, I need a tour. I was like, I've never strength trained in my life. And I was like, what are you thinking? Because in my mind, I look like I'm 300 pounds and I need to be at the gym.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. But I started out in there's a class where I go to Crunch. And so when you walk in, you've got all the equipment and like a line in the middle that if you do every one for 30 minutes, you get a full workout. And then you move on and the classes are in the back. I was like, perfect. There's a classroom in the back. I can take my weights. I can hide in the very back corner. And so I took that whole philosophy. Okay, I'm just gonna make myself go today, and just started working on building the strength training. And again, it was the whole muscles and starting to see progress. And all of a sudden, my pants didn't fit. And I was like, "What is going on?" And so then I started to feel more confident. I even had this 19-year-old girl that we talked for a brief moment. And she said, I just want to tell you, like, I want your arms. And I explained to her, I'm like, really? I was like, well, I used to be 300 pounds. She's like, there's no way. There's no way. So I showed her pictures and we started talking and she's like, well, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 43. She goes, oh my gosh, I want to look like you when I'm 43. And I'm like, no one's ever wanted to look like me, ever. So that gave me more confidence. So
Oh, definitely.
gradually worked myself into the gym. And I'm very intimidated by things that I don't know. I don't mind learning new things, but it intimidates me. So you get a 1 hour free session with a trainer there.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, I don't want training. I don't want you to try and sell me on anything. I want you to show me every single machine in here and show me how it works because I will figure this out if I know how to work it. And so he did. He actually spent like an hour and a half with me. He was super nice and super informative. So I learned briefly how to use the different machines. And luckily, when I go, there's a lot of people that are really serious about it when I'm there. And the first couple of times where I tried to do the weights machines by myself, I couldn't figure some of them out. And a couple of people helped me. And I was really embarrassed, but they were so nice about it. So that was really good. And then now I don't, in fact, this didn't happen last time we talked, but I was in the gym, had my earbuds in. I like putting them in and just tuning everybody out. Because if you've got kids and you got, like, multiple kids, sometimes you just need a break. And I use that as
Yeah.
my escape. So I had him in and I was singing and I didn't even realize I was sitting there like during my rest, I was kind of dancing. And then I was like, oh crap, what am I doing? I stopped. And then this guy next to me is the older man. He had his earbuds in and he just starts jamming, like going crazy, like, that's okay. You're good. Like, it was really funny. And I was like, never did I think I would do that in the gym. So I've grown a lot, but it takes showing up and becoming more comfortable with yourself and, you know, the situation that you're in. So
Absolutely. And going back to where you were saying, like, you wanted to go to the back corner of the gym, like because you all like, because like, for me, it was like when I was overweight, I was like, I started at the gym, like you said, a month to month basis, because like I start something and I don't follow through. And so
yeah.
I always went to the back corner of the gym and Planet Fitness or whatever. And and I stayed in the back because they had their 30-minute workouts in the back in the back corner, and then at one point they had it in its own little room, whatever. Even
Yeah.
though the walls were open or whatever, but I went in there, got my workout, got in, got out because it's like when I'm going in, it's like, man, people are going to look at me and be like, oh, what? Excuse my language, why is this fat ass in here working out with all these
I,
people with
I
muscles? You
get,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Man, it's
Mm-hmm.
like I body shamed myself for so long, and it was like I was embarrassed to go, and I told my wife, I was like, "Well, I'm not going back, or I gotta find out." Because like you got that app that tells you how many people are in there,
Yeah.
and so, well, on Planet Fitness app, it sucks because it tells you nobody's in there. You show up, and the whole place is packed. So, so every time I win, it's like, you know what? I got to get over this. Got to start getting more self confident, And then I kept on going and going and going, and I got with my doctor, and I said, "Look, enough's enough. I'm tired." I was like, I'm body shaming myself. I'm embarrassed to go anywhere. So she put me on Zepbound. It's a shot. It's an injection. It slows down your hunger. And it helps you lose weight more. Well, I think I told you last time. Well, I did it for 2 months, and like my third month for my month thing, they jumped it up to $1,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do this no more. So I'm on my own. I have my wife's support, got my kids' support, but the support that I need is my own self support. You know what I mean? I have to have that motivation in myself. I have to have that want. You know what I mean? And then so I started thinking about my why. What is my why to get into the gym? And my why was my children and my wife, you know what I mean? Because my kids, 4 girls and 1 boy, they all were active in school and they're still active, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like my 12-year-old, when she wants to go running, because she likes to run like 3 miles. It's like, I'm not gonna go run with you. I say, because I'm not gonna be no fun, because I'm gonna run 50 yards and then I'm gonna stop, and then you're gonna have to wait on me and I'm messing up your progress. So I said, "No, Dad, it's okay." She said, "I'll stop. I'll run the place." No, baby, that's too fat. He can't do it. So I'm no fun to be around when I was overweight. And so now it's like, now I left Planet Fitness because we got a gym like 2 minutes from my house called American Fitness. Shout out to Jay Patel. But So now I go in there and then, it's all free weights. So then again, it started back over. You see all these guys that are yoked and all that. It's like, shit, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, you know what? These people are in the same and are here for the same reason I am. I said at one point they probably weren't 300 pounds like myself or whatever, but at some point they were said enough's enough. I gotta start getting in shape. Now maybe some of them were blessed by the muscle gods or whatever, but it's like what, I'm in here for a purpose. You know what I mean? And now that I'm at 144. It's like I've never felt better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, man, now I could run a mile with my daughter. I can't run 2 or 3 miles with her, but I can actually run a mile with her, keep
That's
up with
huge.
her. And it's like, man, that's a big milestone for me because like I can never run, you know. And now it's like, oh man, I feel so good. Now I'm active. I'm running around the yard with the kids. We're going different places. I can actually take a shirt off and put a muscle shirt on. Even though my stomach's still there, I'm still working on that. It's like it's not bulging out, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, I feel better than ever. Hey, who cares? You know what? You don't know how long it took me to get this way.
Right? Yes.
So all
Exactly.
the blood, sweat, tears, everything, and so it's like, yeah, I'm loving it.
Yeah. I truly believe that that whole philosophy of me versus me, w-
Yes.
that we honestly fight ourselves more than anything else because we tell ourselves all the things we're insecure about and we allow it to control us.
Yeah.
Um,
I could see a
and
T-shirt.
so, yeah.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
to me, and that's why to me, going to Celebrate Recovery and working on my mental health, to me, first and foremost, that's the most important because if you're dealing with other things and struggling so hard, you really can't help but self destruct. Um, and it doesn't work. And most of the time, we don't realize that. But when we're in the gym and stuff, nobody's looking at us. Nobody cares. They're all, like you said, they're all there for the same reason.
Yeah.
And we've all struggled in some sort of way. And so, it's funny meeting you in the accountability group. These accountability groups on Facebook are incredible. No one knows anybody from Adam, but I'm in a couple of them, like 3 of them. There is no negativity. Like everybody is so supportive because we understand what everybody's going through and how hard it is to show up for ourselves.
Mhm.
And that accountability is huge. Like if it's great that your family is helps to be your support system. And a lot of people don't have that. And so it's a big deal to have people that are cheering you on. But same token, you've got to be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And you're like you said, you talking about your why. That really is the most important. The first thing you have to do is why. Why do you want this? What's going to keep you motivated? Because at some point you're going to lose it. And then what are you going to do? You
Most
got to be
definitely.
disciplined at that point. You got to be consistent and show up. I've often had people ask me, well, what's like the top 5 or so things you would say that made a difference that really changed that for you? And I always say, first and foremost is mental health. And you can do a program like Celebrate Recovery. It's free. And you can utilize that. I would highly recommend that. But there's also, you go to therapy and work on things. If you can't afford therapy with gas prices like they are, um, there's so many options out there now that you may not even realize. Like Pinterest, you can go to Pinterest and you can find all kinds of worksheets and journal prompts and books. And same thing with different reels on YouTube and Facebook. You can find wonderful podcasts like this. It's stuff like that it's free resources that we can use that people don't think about and they don't utilize them. So that would definitely be my first thing is saying you got to work on your mental health. And then the second thing, and I forgot to mention this last time, and so I actually went and found my journal. So I started a journal when I did this because when I was doing Celebrate Recovery with my other things, we journaled a lot to figure out different things we need to work on.
Uh-huh.
And so I just transferred that over. And I thought, okay, it's good to follow a food journal and understand what you're eating and things. And I thought, but there's more to it to hold you accountable and to be able to learn the things you need to know. And so I would every single day, I would write how much sleep I got the night before because it's so important that you get rest. I would write every single thing I put in my mouth and at the time that I ate it. And then I would write, was I hungry when I ate the food? And then I would also put the mental state I was in so that I could track, why am I eating? How am I eating? what am I dealing with at that time? I also kept track of my steps, and also how much fitness I put in. And then, like this blurb right here is just an emotional mental health check-in. And so when I did that, and I did it for about 3 months, it really was amazing to me to see patterns and habits that I didn't even know that I had. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it can be overwhelming. And so that whole all or nothing, you don't have to change them all at one time. And so
Yeah.
I would focus on one thing. And just an example of that was at that particular time, my kids were in 3 different schools. So I spent 3 hours in the car every day. And I would be bored and I would want something to eat. It wound up being around lunchtime. And I would just grab stuff. And I found I particularly like crunchy things. Didn't even know that's what I was grabbing all the time. And so I literally started by just changing that one thing. Now, a lot of people will tell you, well, you shouldn't be eating in the car. Like, that's a bad habit. Well, you also have to work with what we have. If we start changing things because other people tell us to do those things, they may not necessarily be something that fits in our lifestyle or things that we enjoy. And that's another thing that I found is that if you're doing something you don't like or it's something that doesn't fit into your schedule and your routine, you can't keep it up. So I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat in the car. So let's figure out what to do. So I actually took sandwich meat and rolled it up with some cheese. And then I just cut up little carrots and I got the crunch out of it. I still got to eat in the car, but it wasn't anything bad. And I was like, that was an easy change. I didn't realize like how easy that was. And so I just started applying that in different areas. The second thing I would say is really getting your um, physical health in check. A lot of people deal and have with a lot of health issues. And I have a wonderful nurse practitioner, shout out to Carla Hammonds, that she really believes in treating the whole self and functionally as much as possible, which includes diet and exercise. And so I have underactive thyroid. I'd been on levothyroxine and Synthroid my entire life. It didn't do squat. And so she said, you're on the wrong medication. So we changed my medication, started losing weight again. And then she also said, I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder. I was tested for the inflammation. I didn't realize you're supposed to test for that. And the people that tested me, they're like, we can't touch you. Your inflammation is like off the charts. And I was like, no wonder I feel like crap. So I called Carla and I was like, Carla, they said I have to go see a rheumatologist. And she said, absolutely not. I was like, what? She said, they're going to put you on another pill. You don't need another pill. She's like, change diet. I was
Yeah.
like, seriously? She's like, change your diet. And so she recommended for me for the autoimmune disorder that I have for my thyroid issues. She's like, and I'm very high insulin resistant. She said, go carnivore. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, what about vitamins? She said, go carnivore. Your body needs and craves carnivore. So I now follow basically an 85% carnivore diet and gone. It's all gone. Like it's crazy how much getting on the right diet changes things. Now, obviously I recommend carnivore diet because it has worked so well for me. I feel like I recover faster. I build muscle faster. I've lost weight faster. But once again, like I said, not everything works for everybody. And if you don't like meat or you don't like being restricted to certain things, that is not for you because you won't sustain that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of finding what works for your health, the issues that you're having, find the right diet. There's all kinds of different ones that you can look into that are great. But primarily, my biggest thing would be try and eat foods that are 1 to 3 ingredients because then you're not putting crap in your body. And with that same token, then I also was learning ways that my body reacted. And I had no idea this. And we talked about this last time. And you said you didn't either. I don't think many people do. So when you eat carbs at breakfast or whatever your first meal of the day is, your body then releases all this insulin. That's just the way your body reacts to carbs. So your body, when that's the first thing you eat, it says, oh, so this is what we're eating. This is how we're going to treat food all day. And so your body actually secretes more insulin and it's more harmful than it is helpful for the rest of the day. Whereas if you'll eat protein in the morning, it says, oh, this is protein, this is fuel, we're going to burn this. And it actually burns off more of what you eat, even carbs you eat later in the day,
Yeah.
it'll burn that more like protein. And I was like, I had no idea. So I did that. I just started dropping weight. Like, I was like, what the heck? But I never knew that. And then also I've been getting on my daughter because she doesn't eat a lot. And I tried to explain to her, food is not, eating is not the problem. And you not eating, you're actually like stunting your metabolism. You got to eat, but you got to eat the right stuff. And when we're trying to get in shape and we're doing all this stuff, protein is so important. And they say you should be getting 1 gram of protein per pound of weight, which when starting out, that's a lot. And they're like, well, at least a minimum of 150 grams. And so
Yeah.
I strive to hit 150 grams of protein every day. And sometimes I wind up having to do a shake, or I have, they're called Perfect Aminos, and they're just pills, but they're made from chicken, fish, and beef.
Yeah.
And it's got 29 grams of protein in 1 serving of the capsules. And so sometimes I have to do that because I don't eat a lot, as I've retrained my gastric bypass pouch to kind of reshrink. I've got to get it in somewhere.
Yeah.
And then on that same token about protein, when we work out, I learned that it's also so important to eat protein within 30 minutes of working out. Because the whole point is that we're breaking down our muscles and then they're rebuilding and getting bigger. And if you'll actually eat the protein 30 minutes after, it hasn't rebuilt yet. And so the protein gets in there in between the muscles. And so it starts to grow the muscles faster by having that protein that helps to build them up. Had no clue. Never heard that in my life. But I started following all these things, and it's just like bam, bam, bam. Like I've never changed so fast in my entire life. And
Yeah.
it's just incredible when you do that. And then, like I'd said before, like third thing would be the goal setting and not taking on so much. I think I had told you the example last time about a rock. When you have a big rush of water over these rocks, they just flow right over and the rock stays just like it is. But if you have a rock that has a drip that's constantly just little by little, slowly dripping, all of a sudden the rock starts to form a hole. It changes, the shape of it changes. And so it's just like us. If we do these quick diets, these quick exercises, it's a quick fix. It's not something sustainable. And so we don't change. We go back to our old habits. But if we change slowly and we do these small things, we slowly change our brain, which slowly makes a pattern, and it starts to change us. Um, the accountability thing, we talked about that. That's huge. And I will warn people, you will find there are people out there that unfortunately will say, you're too skinny now. You don't eat enough. And you've got to. Now, I'll tell you, I'm somebody that will self-sabotage. And I would hear that before. I'd use that as an excuse. I'd be like, oh, they said I should eat, so I'm going to eat. So me versus me again. But now I'm like, I literally will tell people, I'm like, you don't realize I'm still 140 pounds. I'm smaller than I was in high school, but I'm 20 pounds heavier than I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I said, I guarantee I eat twice what you eat in a day. So you
It's
just got
like,
to learn
it's crazy.
that
So
mindset.
it's like, look, you're saying I'm too skinny, but you're saying I was too fat, So I was too fat. Like, I'm where I want to be. And like, to me, it'd be like, mind your business. You know what I mean? Mind your business. So I'm right where
That's
I want to
right.
be. If I'm too skinny, well, then obviously you want to be like me.
Yeah.
Obviously
You're
you have
doing
an
something right.
opinion.
And they
Yeah,
want
I'm
to do
doing
it.
something right. Exactly. So we're
Yes.
gonna go back. Um, you mentioned losing inches, gaining muscles. Like, when you first started, what changes did you notice that kept you motivated and all that good stuff when you were losing weight?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. In the past, being overweight, I was so obsessed with my weight, the number,
Uh,
and what it represented. And so I was somebody who weighed every morning and every night, which
uh-huh.
is really can be hazardous. And so that was another thing that I basically threw out when I started doing. I'm like, to do this differently, like I can't focus on that because this isn't about weight. This is about getting healthy. It's not about looking good anymore. This is like, you've got to do this, like you said, for your family, for your health. And so I would track my inches, I would track my clothing size, and then just seeing the muscles change. And so it really was amazing to see. Like I would not necessarily know that I'd made a difference. I couldn't tell myself. But then I'd go and measure and I'd lost like 7-10 inches that 2-3 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I had done that.
Yeah.
Also, before and after photos, I would highly recommend throughout the whole process. When you start, you don't want to because you don't want to remember what you look like. But when you get into the journey, you start seeing that progress. It's amazing. And it's a good marker for you to go back and go, oh, well, I have really changed, and not focus on the scale. Because again, like I said, I'm 140 pounds basically, but nobody would ever think that. And I don't care that I'm 140 pounds. I care how I look and I care how I feel. And I feel strong and I feel good. So I don't really care that the number says 140. Um, and so I've lost since September of last year, I've lost over 30 inches over my entire body. And I've lost from a size 8, 10-ish to a 2'4". Never been a size 2'4" ever in my life. But I stopped focusing on that number. That number's not important anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's, am I healthy? Am I building muscle? And that's again, like you say, well, what do you do when you get unmotivated? That's when you go back and you look at those things. You can't go back and look at the scale. The scale's gone, but I see, oh, I've lost this amount of inches. Oh, I tried on these gold jeans and wow, they fit. And those kinds of things, they really motivate you. And then seeing those pictures side by side and going, holy crap, I did that. So
I try to take the before picture, you know what I mean? And then I start working out, and then I'm going through my pictures, and then I don't like it, so I deleted it. Cause I did like the before picture like 4 or 5 times, and it's like, I don't want this picture in here, I don't want to look at it, you know what I mean? Cause I was ashamed of how I looked. But now thinking about it now, if I would have kept that, and then now, you know what I mean? Like, man, I could have did the side by side. That would have been awesome. You know what I mean?
go
And
ask your family if they got pictures of you.
yeah, we hardly take pictures unless it's for something for putting on the wall. So, um, but so when you wake up in the morning and you don't feel motivated or you don't have the inspiration to move, what what makes you say get off your ass and let's go? Or do you just say, I'm not gonna do anything?
Um, a lot of times now, I just think about why did we start this? Why, what are we trying to change? If I sit here and I do nothing, I'm continuing an old bad habit.
Yeah.
And so I don't care if I get up and I walk a mile and then I'm done. I did something. And to be honest, if you get started, you'll usually wind up doing something more than just that. But if that's all you do, that's great. At least you got up and you moved and you did something. And it's again, it's about training your brain to know, okay, we're not doing this again. This is an old pattern. Like we can do this. But then there are also days where I get up and I'm just flat out exhausted. I've overdone myself and I've never been a good one to sit. I've never been a good one to rest because I fear that if I rest, I won't do it again. But I'm learning how to embrace that we also need rest days. And if I absolutely hands down feel like crap, I take a day. But I try and make it a habit that you never miss more than 2 days in a row.
Yeah. And like when I get up and it's like, man, like this morning, like to me, honestly, I think I overworked myself yesterday in the gym. And like so the whole day yesterday, like my whole body hurt. You know what I mean? It's like so I went to bed, I took some ibuprofen, I woke up this morning and my legs are still killing me. But it's like, you know what? I still gotta get up at 6:30 in the morning, take my daughter to school, get her there by 7, then come back home, take my kids, my other 2 back to school, get them by 8. It's like, man, if I just sit here, like the best thing I did so far was get up. You know what I mean? I got up. So that's a start. And it's like, you know what? My body hurts, I'm not gonna go work out. But then I'm putting it in my head, okay, like you said, okay, I'm not gonna work out today, then I'm not gonna work out tomorrow, then I'm not gonna work this day. Says no. So actually after we get off here, after I do all the edits and all that, I'm heading to the gym. But it's like in the mindset, it's like if I don't go work out, I'm gonna gain that 50 pounds back like that. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want that because I already take off Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays because I work 14 hours a day. So it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm already missing 3 days. So if I don't work out these other 4 days, I'm screwing myself up. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
after I get thrown out of a pattern and I just sit at home, it's like, oh, I'm fixing to start board eating, or I'm trying to like I'll clean the house, but then it gets like, okay, ain't got nothing to do. Okay, I'm looking at the pantry.
Yeah.
There's ho-hos, there's ding dongs, there's cupcakes, all the kids' snacks. It's like, no, I'm going to the gym.
That's
So
yeah, and that's where that focusing one day at a time really comes in, because if you're not worrying about how many days after you're going to show up, I'm just going to show up today.
yeah,
I'm just going to get 30 minutes in today. That's all I'm going to worry about.
yeah. And like I was listening to a motivational pod because I listen to motivational podcasts every morning.
Hmm.
There was one saying, I can't remember who was saying it, but it says Rome wasn't made beautiful in a day. It took years to make it look beautiful. Never been to
Yeah.
Rome, you know what I mean? But I've seen pictures and Rome is beautiful. But it's like if you just start one step at a time, you know, the light's going to be at the end of the tunnel. But if you start and then stop, then you're just basically wasting your time. And so I keep that in my head every day. I told my kids the other day about something she couldn't do, and I told my daughter, I was like, you know what? Rome wasn't made beautiful in a day. She's like, what are you talking about? And I pulled up pictures of Rome and showed all the beautiful places they had, and she was
Yeah.
like, how long did it take them to build it? I was like, I don't know, years, decades. You know what I mean? She's well,
Yeah.
I don't have decades. It's like this is just an analogy. You have to. This is
Right.
just for inspiration, And my kids, they're smart, they're bright, but they take after their they take after their mom, but they are some smart asses sometimes. Um, so moving on. Um, okay. So how did you overcome the discomfort and intimidation of working out in the gym? I think we talked about this earlier, but
Yeah.
how did you overcome all that? When saying like, because I see you now online, you're out there, you're recording yourself working out.
Yeah.
Like, what gave you the confidence to start doing that? Because I try to go to the gym, I try to put my phone there to try to record, but it's like, nah, I don't want people looking at me.
I do. I still am very, I'm a little uncomfortable doing that. I
Mm.
kind of want, I'm like, how can I hide my phone and like keep people from seeing it?
Yeah.
But it's funny. I did a post the other day about how to eat my own words,
Mhm.
because I commented on an influencer personal trainer's post one day that said, um, even if you're anxious, even if you have low self-esteem, if you get in the gym and you work out, it'll go away. And I'd been in the gym at that point for like 6 weeks and I still was not comfortable. And
Yeah.
I said, I can appreciate you saying that. But there are some of us, especially like me, that's lost all this weight and I have body dysmorphia and I make myself go, but I'm not comfortable. And I've been going for X amount of time. And I was like, okay, I got to eat my words, because I actually like, it's become my second home. I enjoy the gym, what it brings for me. I think a big part of it was, one, seeing the results that were happening,
Uh-huh.
but also telling y'all it's the mind, it's the mental thing. Going back to my mind, I had to get out of that mindset that I didn't belong there. I had to say I do belong here, whether I look like them or not. Because if I'm in here doing this, you know, you're 1%, you're in that top 1% of people that are there. So I do belong to be here. And no, I may not look like them yet, but I'm in here, like you said, 40 years, 40 plus years of bad habits. They don't change overnight. So just that mindset. This didn't happen overnight. This isn't going to come off overnight. I deserve to be here. Nobody's really looking at me. No one's making fun of me. Um, and then just starting to see all the changes. And it's like, okay, this, this works.
Yeah. So recording yourself and all that, like, what made you come out your comfort zone to do that?
Well, so I've started a women's accountability group where we tackle mental health, nutrition, hormones, because I also had a full hysterectomy a year and a half ago. So I'm full blown menopause. So I also understand all these women going through perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
And then also the fitness and like journaling and all that stuff. So I thought, well, I've got to be able to prove to them that, this is working and this is what you do. And so it started by doing that. And then I've had so many people that have come up to me and they said, you know, if you don't share your story, like, you're doing a disservice to other people. Because just my friends and that little group that started out with 10, we now have 200 people in there. They're like, if watching you do that and I know you have a busy life and I know you work and I know you got 3 kids and like, but you still show up. And so it's basically become a way of telling my story, motivating other people, showing other people ways to do things. And so that kind of trumps being embarrassed about it. You know, if I can help one person, if that's the only thing I did, if I helped one person, not only did I help them, but the changes that they make help their family, which then in turns to me probably break some of the generational curses and generational patterns. So then you've changed the whole life, the
Yeah.
whole, generation of people by changing one person.
Yeah.
And
And
so
yeah,
that's
like
important.
you said, changing the perspective of somebody else is like me working out. Even though my daughter likes running, she hardly wants to go to the gym because she has little bitty arms or whatever. But every time, like I go to the gym and she's on school break, she's inspired. She's like, "Dad, can I go to the gym with you? I want to work out. I want to get big muscles like you." And then my little one, she can't go in because she's only 8 because you have to be a certain age.
Yeah.
Which is like, "Well, can you buy me some weights at home? Can you buy me this?" She said, "I want to get big like you." She said, I want a flat stomach." I said, "Well, Daddy ain't got a flat stomach." She said, "I know, but," she said, "We're going to do a
But you're
challenge."
working on it.
She said, "We're going to see who gets the 6-pack faster."
Awesome.
So, and we got a $50 bet, to which I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose because, they're kids, they can, boom, throw it just like
Yes.
that.
They
Um,
they bounce back a whole lot easier than we do.
Most definitely. Okay. So, what small habits or routines have made the biggest difference in your fitness journey?
So definitely that journal that I was talking about because it helped me to understand patterns, behaviors, foods that were not working for me. That was definitely a big thing. And again, changing that all or nothing mentality because if we stay in that mentality, we're basically destroying ourselves. We're the negativity. And so that's another thing. I've often been negative Nancy most of my life. And so, and if I feel like I've been defeated or failure, that's an excuse to stop. And since doing all the mental work, I now find that I have to find positivity in every situation.
Yeah.
Um, for example, when I was at my lowest, I wound up breaking my foot, and I had a really bad concussion. I didn't know how I did it. Um, I, I think I had someone involved in why that happened. And at first, I was so angry at them. Like, why would they do that? And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I'm grateful for them because if they hadn't put me in that spot, I wouldn't have gone to CR. If I hadn't gone to CR, I wouldn't be where I am right now. If I wasn't where I am right now, I couldn't help somebody else. And so everything that you feel is failure or defeat, it's only a lesson.
Most definitely.
And you have to be willing to hold yourself accountable and be willing to make the changes. It's not easy. I mean, my husband once told me like last year, he's like, I'm 53, how, it's, do you not realize how hard it is to change? I looked at him, I was like, I'm 43 and that's all I've been doing. Yes, I know how hard it is to change. It is hard. It's very, very hard because we don't want to feel the pain we've been feeling our whole life and trying to stuff our whole life. And so that's definitely been a big change. Is now I don't want I don't fear pain
Yep.
because if I face the pain and if I face the situation, then I can deal with the situation.
Most
But if I ignore it, it's just going to build up, it's going to grow, it's going to cause me to try and fix it in other ways. And so, really, just being able to look at anything that's uncomfortable, acknowledge it, take responsibility where there's responsibility due. That's one thing I was never good at.
Yeah.
Um, and if it's not, there's some things that aren't your responsibility. And just, you also have to understand that some things do happen to you. No, they were not unfair, but you can't use it as a crutch later in your life. Like at that point, you're an adult, you get to choose. So how do you want to utilize if you were sexually abused or if you were physically abused or emotionally abused? How can you use that for good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, but how do you turn that around and make it a positive for the rest of your life so you're not drowning in that and causing self-defeat?
Most definitely. So now that you're passionate about health and fitness, For the listeners out there, what advice would you give someone just starting out to make progress sustainable? And what is one thing that you would want them to learn from it?
Again, work through your mental stuff. If anything else, if that's all you start with right now, that will serve you well. And again, the whole show up one day at a time, because we can get so overwhelmed, especially in the beginning. Just show up today and choose yourself. And you find your why, like you were talking about. You really need to have a why, because if you don't have a why and you're just doing it, you can easily fall off. So find your why and then find the steps how to get there, because it's the small steps that will help you grow, not the big goals. Those are great, but you've got to find those small steps one day at a time and just focus on being a better you.
That was beautiful right there. Well, Miss Katie, I'm going to go ahead and end this recording right here. Well, before we even go, is there any shout outs you want to give out to? And so we can give them a shout out or anything, or are you good?
I'm good, I think.
All right. Well, it was a
I
pleasure.
will say, I will say though, that if anybody is struggling, you feel free to reach out. I'm happy to try and help. I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to get certified and becoming more of a coach of physically fitness and also behavioral changes. So if you're struggling, you need some advice, feel free to message me. I'd love to help you start a journey or make sure you don't fall off your journey.
Well, Miss Katie, it was a blessing and a privilege to have you on today. Thank you
Thank
for
you very much.
everything.
Thank you.
And thanks for being
And congrats
patient.
on your weight loss.
Well, I do appreciate it. You know what
That's
I mean?
huge.
And well, thanks for being patient with me with all the technical difficulties and all that. But I'm
No worries.
glad we got back on together.
Yeah.
And after I end this recording, just sit tight right quick, and then we can have a conversation after this. All right?